Welcome back. All right, so I want to talk about the Arizona Coyotes, and I want to do it in like a big picture kind of way because we talk a lot about the Coyotes, and there's always the eye rolling, it's never going to work. Just it's not going to work. It's a terrible, terrible market. Well, I do want to talk about it because yesterday the Arizona Coyotes come out with a game plan and a website with a game plan that shows that there's an auction date in 83 days, and there's a nice little countdown clock there, and everything looks good. Like it's a well designed website and all the information's on there that you might need in order to decide whether or not you think this is going to work or whether it isn't. And for me, I just want the conversation to be over. I want them to win the bid in June, and then we never have to talk about it again. All of the Arizona relocation talk can just be gone. Poof, gone. Just Kaiser Soze that right out of there. So I wanted to look at the ownership history of this team a little bit because it is important to keep this in mind when you're talking about the Coyotes and their struggles. In fact, why don't we start off talking about the arenas they've played in? So they start off playing in America West Arena from 1994 to 2003. And really, really early on, Coyote owners knew this wasn't going to work. They needed their own arena. And they've been promising to build a brand new arena since the early 2000s. This has been going on for over 20 years. So when I talk about this, I'm like, that's it. I give up. It's been over 20 years of information. And so that's why, back in January, I was like, all right. But again, we'll see how this turns out. Then they moved to the Glendale Arena, which became Gila River. They were there from 2004 till 2022. And as ugly as the divorce was when they got unceremoniously booted from their building, it didn't work there either. So Gila River wasn't an arena that was giving them a lot of money. Right now they're in Mullet. They've been in Mullet last year and this year. The plan being the new arena comes in 2027, 2028. But I wanted to get into the ownership history of this team a little bit because I think this gives a bit of an example of why it hasn't worked. So first off, they've had two arenas that it hasn't worked in so far, where it was just a complete money-losing environment. And of course, Mullet, it's not that they're making a ton of money in Mullet. They're not losing money like they did in Glendale or at America West. So October 1995, Stephen Gluckstern and Richard Burke buy the Winnipeg Jets with the idea they're going to move them to Minneapolis, St. Paul. However, that fell through, so they ended up moving them to Phoenix instead. So we could have ended up with the Minnesota Jets. We could have had the Minnesota Wild a lot sooner than we did. So 1998, Burke buys out Gluckstern, so he becomes the majority owner of the team. 2001, Burke sells to Steve Ellman. This is where Gretzky comes in as a partial owner, and the Gretzky era with the team begins. Now, Ellman tried to build a new arena in Scottsdale and move the team to Glendale Arena as he was trying to get it to work in Scottsdale, which it didn't, and it all fell apart. And it is one of a few times they've tried to build a new arena and it's fallen apart. I don't have the Tempe thing on here because we went through the Tempe thing last year. 2005, Ellman realizes, well, this is a money-losing environment and sells to Jerry Moyes. Moyes, in May of 2009, realizing this is not something that's going to work. This is not an environment where I'm going to make any money either. Moyes puts the team in bankruptcy, and this really, really ticked off the NHL and Gary Bettman because he did it hours before Bettman was going to present him with Jerry Reinsdorf's offer. Yes, Jerry Reinsdorf, owner of Chicago teams, and he was going to buy the Arizona Coyotes. So Bettman was choked. Now, what Moyes planned to do was to sell to Jim Balsley, yes, from Blackberry. And the idea was simple. They were going to move the team to Hamilton. And so Moyes would get some money out of that. Balsley gets his team in Hamilton. Well, the NHL stepped in. And the NHL stripped Moyes of his ownership authority. Like, no, you can't just sell to somebody else who's going to move the team to Hamilton. That's not how this works. And the NHL, with the team in bankruptcy, would, through court dealings and everything else, eventually own the team. The NHL itself owning the team, which is not something you want. You now have a team that's been losing money, that's in an arena that does not work, that is not playing particularly well on the ice, and I will get to that. And so it's not a good setup. May 2010, the city of Glendale was working with Ice Edge in a last-ditch attempt to buy and keep the team in Arizona because the team could move. Back as far as 2009, we were having this discussion, although I do remember there being some hockey purists that as soon as the team moved to Arizona said, that's never going to work. It's never going to work in Phoenix. Hockey will not work in the desert. It just can't. So the deal Ice Edge was working on with the city of Glendale collapsed in July, which might be for the best for the city of Glendale. The city of Glendale lost a lot of money, and a lot of money came out of pocket. I could never understand why the city of Glendale did it. I still remember watching that Glendale City Council where I was like, okay, they're going to kick him out of Gila River. There's no way they're going to decide to make it work. And yeah, they did. And they put the lease down, and I was like, so they're committed to losing money. The idea was that the Coyotes bring money into the community. That's the idea that's being sold. And anytime somebody wants to build a new arena, Kansas City, that's the first thing. And I'm not saying that from an NHL perspective. I'm saying that from an NFL perspective. I was going to do a video on how the Chiefs were threatening to move, and then I did a little bit of research. I'm like, they're not going anywhere. It's what a BS threat that is. But the reality is that these arenas don't really pay for themselves. Arenas are not, like stadiums especially too, they're these huge buildings that do not pay the money back. If they're publicly funded, they generally end up losing money for the city. And that's something that Glendale was dealing with the Coyotes, where they weren't getting the money back from the team that they were being promised they were going to get back. The relationship between the city and the team soured pretty badly before Alex Meruelo takes over and we get into the situation we're in now. So June of 2011, there was a consortium of investors that were looking at buying the team, and that deal fell through. So again, you've got a team that nobody's taking over this team. The NHL's been running this team. Numerous attempts have been made to buy this team, and none of them go through. I just put numerous other bids fell through because there were certain other ones too over those years that just did not work. So 2013, the NHL basically decides, you know what? If they can't figure this out, we're going to have to move. This doesn't work. We can't keep owning a team. Find an owner or we're gone. So that is 11 years ago that the NHL was like, all right, if they don't figure this out, we may have to pull up stakes and go. And I don't know how real that threat was, because again, it's not something that we haven't seen with Arizona at times over the years, but they would find an owner. RSE buys the team officially August 5th of 2013. So now the NHL no longer owns the Coyotes. They only had them for 4 years? So, ta-da! And the interesting thing too is that it's not like the Coyotes had this ridiculous amount of success on the ice during that period. They had some, but the Coyotes have never been a big success on the ice. One thing that I mentioned in the interview I had with Brody Brazil there a bit back is that, to me, the whole idea of, the whole thing's set up and the NHL predetermines everything, then why do the Coyotes generally suck? If the NHL had the ability to make a team really good, and if the NHL had an ability to massage the results so certain teams win, there's no explanation for why the Coyotes, a team they have bailed out time and time and time again, who they've given endless opportunities to stay there, it makes no sense that the team's as bad on the ice as it has been, because you would think they'd want this team to start winning. You're going to get more attention from the fan base that way. And I want to talk about that too. So RSE buys the team August 5th of 2013, but October of 2014, Andrew Barroway becomes the majority owner. The problem being Andrew Barroway, not awash in money. One thing that all of these owners had in common was either they came across as being cheap, or they just didn't have the money necessary to really build this team up and to really make this work. So Barroway eventually ends up selling the team. Alex Meruelo takes over July 29th of 2019. And as a billionaire, Meruelo is one of those guys who, yes, he absolutely has the money to make it work. He has the money required in order to fix the arena problem. And in the process as well, hire hopefully some of the best hockey people that can fix this problem over here. So before we get over to the arena deal and what the plan is, I want to talk a bit about the play on the ice, because this is part of the reason why when I see people, Coyotes can't even fill their own building, it's always all the opposition fans. I wonder why. So playoff appearances since the team moved from Winnipeg, 1997, 1998, 1999, 2000. That's 4 straight years. And then it gets kind of quiet. They missed the playoffs in 01. They make the playoffs in 2002. Don't make the playoffs again until 2010, where they went to the conference final. They make the playoffs again in 2011. They don't make the playoffs again until 2020, and that was due to the expanded playoffs. If the NHL had gone through a full 2019-2020 season, we had normal 16-team playoffs, the Coyotes don't make the playoffs. So we would be talking about the Coyotes in the same breath as the Buffalo Sabres right now, how they have not made the playoffs in well over a decade. So the 2020 playoffs, to me, kind of, it masks the fact that this team has had absolutely no on-ice success since like 2010. And so it is difficult. So if you're going to say this market doesn't work for hockey, well, it's even harder to make it work for hockey when the product on the ice isn't very good. The arena isn't very good for the team either, and so it just doesn't work. So when you look at it in the big picture, 18 times this team's missed the playoffs. 18. So you have an arena that doesn't work, that's going to guarantee that you're going to lose money. You've got a team on the ice that has not worked, and you've gone through a lot of owners over not a very long period of time, so there's no stability in terms of who's running the show. And of course, we've gone through a lot of coaches, a lot of GMs, and just a lot of uncertainty with the Arizona Coyotes. Now, coming back to the plan, the auction date being in 83 days, so we will have an update then on what's going on. As mentioned previously in a news video, these land auctions in Arizona, typically 80% of those land auctions end up with only one bidder. It's a $3 billion project, more than $3 billion project. And it's all privately funded. So, no taxpayer dollars, no need for any referendums, no need for any kind of land rezoning that I've seen. So all of that should be okay. There's still the chance somebody could challenge it. Somebody could go, hey, that's our piece of desert. Maybe they'll decide to put a landfill there. Who knows? Maybe Tempe's landfill. Maybe they don't have enough room for all the landfill stuff. But all kidding aside, it is all privately funded. So from that angle, I think people can say fine. The minimum bid for the land is $68.5 million. Obviously, if you have over $3 billion you're going to be putting into a building, $68.5 million to buy the land, it's a lot of money for anybody, but it's not nearly as much money when you're talking about billionaires, which we are in this case. Now, the plan is the arena is going to have 17,000 seats for hockey games and about 1,500 extra seats that can be added for other events. So 17,000 is pretty good. That's not a bad attendance number at all. 400,000 square feet for retail, office space as well. And they're going to have a watch party area with a big screen. So when I hear this, I think, okay, when I go to Las Vegas and when you come out of T-Mobile Arena, you are still in the midst of a huge, huge opportunity to part with more of your money. Either via the casinos or the shops. I love going to the shops in Las Vegas, but it is very interesting to come out and realize, hey, everything's still open and we can go shopping. That was a fun game. Let's go shopping. So obviously there's some idea of that here as well, right? There's a 3,000 seat music theater that they're putting in next door. So music and live performances. And they're saying that it's going to have state-of-the-art acoustics, and it's going to be great, nice, intimate atmosphere for 3,000 people to enjoy a musical event. And so, again, that feels almost Vegas-like because you have all these other options for things to do before and after a game. Then there are 1,900 residential units, multiple parking structures as well. So where you make your money back. So I talked at the beginning about how, stadiums and arenas don't make money for cities and whatnot. By adding these residential units and by having them owned via the same, basically put in by the same people that are building the arena, this is where you're going to earn a lot of your money back. The retail is where you're going to earn a lot of your money back. So no longer is it a situation where we're going to build an arena and that's it. We're going to build a stadium and that's it. These entertainment districts are seemingly becoming more of the norm. Not just, building an arena and crossing your fingers and hoping you make your money back, but putting an entire neighborhood in, basically, and hoping that people will go to it. It does sound really good. The renderings look, they're very video game like, those renderings. I will agree with people that say it looks like Fallout Las Vegas might have been used for them to render it. But whatever was used, it doesn't matter. The reality is, if they can make this work, it can stay in Arizona, it can stay in Phoenix in this case. I personally would be fine with them changing their name back to the Phoenix Coyotes. They changed to Arizona Coyotes in 2014. That's where they came in with the yawning coyote. I know it's a howling coyote, but to me it always looks like it's yawning. And then they went back to this, of course, not too long ago. So I'm wearing both because I like both of them. I hope this doesn't get fully retired, to be honest. But we now are in a situation where ownership seems pretty steady. I know there are people who don't like Alex Maruello. I get it. But it feels like that's pretty steady, that we don't have to worry about a new owner coming in anytime soon. Once they get the arena fixed, and they get that new arena in place, the plan being 2027, 2028, this franchise could be kind of fun to watch. Because one thing is, they're missing the playoffs again this year, but I do like what they're doing. I do like how they're rebuilding. I think they're doing it the right way. They've had veterans there the whole way through. And they've been able to get players to come back. They've been able to get players to come in and sign. And they've already shown that if a player's career is at a low point, you go to the Coyotes, you play well, and all of a sudden your stock rises. So even though they're not competitive from a playoff perspective, they've definitely carved out a decent niche, which should allow them to remain a team to keep an eye on, but the plan being you're a playoff team hopefully in 2028. And again, that's something that Coyotes fans have not seen a lot of. So hopefully this is the end of it. June, that's it. I could do one final video in June, say the auction went through, it went great, everything's perfect. And then no more Coyotes videos other than previews, reviews, and just the normal stuff like every other team gets. But you can see here why there are some NHL fans that are like, all right, seriously, this has to stop. This is every single year. Because it does feel like every single year since 2001, we've been talking about whether or not the Coyotes are going to work. First, from an arena standpoint. Secondly, from an attendance standpoint. And then you look at the product on the ice and think, this hasn't been great for some time. But hopefully this is the end of it. So I've got my fingers crossed on this. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you've not done so already. And so, yeah, the clock is officially there, 83 days. The idea being that if they don't get the bid or something happens and it falls through, I guess they would probably look at moving to Salt Lake City, but maybe we'll go through another 20 different ownership changes. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'll be here to report on it when it does. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. If you haven't already hit like and subscribe, please do. I will talk to you again soon.